Hello, welcome back, everybody, to the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. Happy to have you back. Yes, what's today's date? December 7th, 2022. Right after a fantastic victory yesterday for Democrats with the senator for his new first term, Senator Warnock. He'll be going in for 6 more years. Yeah, that is something to celebrate, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. Just happy to have you here at the show, the caucus show. I try to get my technology right. Let's give Bob a little more volume. Don't be fooled. We just did it again. Thank you for being here. Oh, yeah. I am so happy. This has been a fantastic couple of days, folks. I'm going to bring the volume down. Yeah, I'm going to bring it down, but I just want to do one thing. I just want to say thank you, everybody who's out there, because really Democrats all across the country just had a fantastic victory yesterday with the Senator Warnock and his victory down in Georgia. Georgia was on our mind, and he got it done. And all the people all over the country, all the folks who voted in Georgia, all the people who are on the ground working in Georgia. Listen, we can get it done, folks, as long as we're out there doing what we need to do. And this is just a fantastic thing. Now the Democratic Senate is now 51-49. And you still have the VP out there. She was going to be the tiebreaker. They don't necessarily need her, but hey, they might. But anyway, give yourself a pat on the back for everybody who was out there getting it done. You know, that's just fantastic. I was staying up a little bit late last night just watching all the conversation and watching the returns come in. It's a fantastic thing. So, Democrats, how are you? Democratic small business owners, soon wanting to be small business owner, just all the people out there who are tuning in to the Virginia Democratic Caucus Show live. You know, I'm still just giggling. I am just tickled. Whoa, this has been a good couple of days, folks. We haven't won the war, but we have won another battle that moves us significantly forward. And we've got a busy couple of years in front of us. But hey, I'll take those victories as we can get them. I'll take them every time, because that vote is important. You know, I'm going to talk about voting rights. You know, you see my shirt, I'm showing it. March on for voting rights, because that's really what it's all about. It's what I've been preaching and will continue to preach until we get the John Lewis Voting Rights Act passed, until we get the Freedom to Vote Act passed. That was also, those things need to get through the Senate. They need to get to President Biden's desk, and they need to go ahead and sign them into law. So listen, there's some exciting things coming up, folks. So just pat yourself on the back. Thank you. Hey, let me go ahead and start it as I usually start it. And I always tell people, you know, COVID is not over. It's still out there. You still got around 300 to 400 Americans who are actually, you know, not making it every day. So if you haven't gotten your shots, if you haven't gotten your boosters, if you think you're going to go ahead and get them, I encourage you to go ahead and get your shots, get your booster shots, and, you know, social distance, wear masks when you need to. I know things aren't quite the same as it was 2 years ago, but it ain't over. And I want everybody to be here, every single person of every persuasion, of every particular group you're a part of. We all need to be here for our families, for our country. We all need to be out here making sure we're making this a more perfect union, a better place to be for not only ourselves, but for our children and our grandchildren, and just being the beacon of democracy for the entire world. We got to keep it going on. We got to get it done, folks. So listen, do what you need to do there. I'm not telling you what to do, but listen, I've gotten mine, and I hope you get yours. Hey, so I'm going to keep moving on, because you really got a packed show here today. We've got a fantastic, not one, but two guests who will be here. Actually, a team. So I really look forward to getting to them and talking about what it is that they do and giving them a fantastic introduction. But before I do that, we've got a couple of things that happened. So I'm going to go right into it because we're short on time and we started a little bit late, but we'll push it over a little bit. But folks, the first thing I want to talk about is there were some very interesting things that happened today from a small business perspective. Yep. Very interesting, some things that happened today. And I want to tell you all about them as I work my production information and get all my stuff working over here. If you see me looking up, that's because I'm looking at the screen, trying to make sure I have the right thing in front of me. I've got all these screens up here in front of me. I'm moving stuff around, but okay, well, there it is. I see it. Okay, there it is. There it is. I want to talk about something that's been an exciting feature for really all small businesses today. And another, I think, feather in the hat of Democrats. And I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about this first. And I'm going to bring it on screen for you. Okay, and this is, as I get it on screen, boom, there it is. This is the Biden administration's American Rescue Plan Act has reauthorized and funds the state small business credit initiative. And you're probably saying, well, what's that? But let me tell you what it is real quick. The new version of the SSBCI, which is the State Small Business Credit Initiative, is a program that provides $10 billion to states, the District of Columbia, territories, tribal governments that allow them to basically empower small businesses to get access to capital needed to invest in their businesses and also creating jobs and more opportunities as the country was coming out of the pandemic. But you're probably saying, well, yeah, we already heard about the American Rescue Plan, but what's special about that is that they reauthorized it again. And there's money specifically coming to all states, as I just said, but also there's money coming to Virginia. And you may ask, how much money is coming to Virginia? I'm getting ready to tell you. Here it is. The Biden-Harris administration improves over $200 million for Virginia small businesses via the American Rescue Plan. And specifically, as I try to read that, okay, here's the other one. I'll tell you specifically what that is. The United States Department of Treasury announced the approval of the Virginia State Plan that will bring $230.4 million in funding under the state small business credit initiative to promote small business growth. That is fantastic. A good friend of mine, Tehran, told me about the news today, and I said to myself, I'm going to make sure people know about that. It's one of the first things I'll talk about. But also underneath what I just read about the across the top is something about the descriptions and the contact. So if you see these two URLs that are there, and I don't have a pointer, but underneath description and contacts, it has the information where you can go to basically find out what this program is all about so you can get money for your small business. And also it has the contacts. And I've taken the time right here to make sure that the Virginia contacts are all listed there. So I know it's kind of small, you can't see it, but when you do come back to this and you can see it because it'll be out there, you can kind of pause the video and you can look specifically in there, or you can contact the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus. We'll be happy to provide you with the information. But those links basically are to treasury.gov that talks about the description of the program and talks about who the points of contacts are, not just for Virginia, but for the entire country. So that is really some exciting news if you're a small business, because a lot of times we talk about things for small business and often it comes back, I need access to capital. Well, $10 billion the Democrats have done through the Biden administration and part of the American Rescue Plan, and Virginia's share of that $10 billion is $230.4 million. So if you need 50,000, you need 25,000, you need 100,000, that's a lot of money. Do the math. You ought to be able to get something for your small business. And if you need anyone to assist you with that, we'll be glad to provide you with the information and let you know where you have to go here in the state of Virginia to contact the correct person. And as well as they have contacts for the entire country, the territories and the tribal territories as well. So that's really good news. Hey, whenever we start talking about that cash for small business and capitalization, trust me, if you're in business, You want to get to some of that money. And by the way, it's your tax money. That money just didn't appear out of anywhere. That money came from the money you give to the government. And now the government is saying, hey, we want to help you out, small businesses. We want to help you to access capital. And that's a big thing that's going on. Okay, folks. So I talked a little bit about that. I'm going to go back into what I normally start talking about because I've got a special guest. No, I've got two special guests. I want to make sure you have an opportunity really to hear from them. But first, we got to talk about my favorite thing, and hopefully yours too, voting rights. That's right. This is episode number 76. 76 weeks in a row, we've talked voting rights. And why is voting rights important? Ask the folks down in Georgia why voting rights is important. Even with all the voting suppression that happens, and Senator Warnock said it right at the end of his speech. He says, just because we got this done does not mean voter suppression is not a problem in Georgia. It is a huge problem, not in Georgia, but all over the country. And that is the reason why the voting rights legislation needs to be passed. Because people stood in rain, they stood in lines that wrapped 2 times around the block. People went out of their way to vote. Listen, when people are determined to get something done, they can put all the obstacles they want up there. It's not going to stop people when they're determined. They're going to find a way to get it done. Trust me. If a little rain and a little wait and a little inconvenience, or a lot of it, is not going to stop them, considering what their forefathers and foremothers had to go through to make this country what it is today. And we're definitely going to leverage that, because we're not just doing it for us, we're doing it for our community. We're doing it for our children. We're doing it for our grandchildren. We're doing it for the next few generations. So it's in our hands now to make sure we pass it on. And if I got to wait a little while in the rain and bring a sandwich with me, guess what? I'm bringing 2 subs with me, and we're going to sit down in a chair. We're going to get it done. Okay, that's not going to stop us. Okay, so let me talk about what I talk about first. And I talk about the trilogy of the basis of our civil rights in this country. And I always start off first by talking about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, just to remind you, if you weren't listening in your history class, it prohibits discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And it also has provisions in it where it forbids discrimination also based on the basis of sex, as well as when you're being hired, or when you're being promoted, or when you're being fired. They can't do that. That is the reason why the Civil Rights Act of 1964 needed to be passed. And if you see there at the bottom, that first picture down to your left, I guess, or might be your right, people were out there protesting. And in the middle, you see President Lyndon Baines Johnson signing historic legislation there with Martin Luther King. When that legislation got passed, and then you got a picture of children riding the bus together from various different communities and just saying, hey, we're trying to make a more perfect union. So there you go. 1964 Act, you're saying, well, that's one. Well, guess that wasn't good enough. We had to go even further. We had to say, well, here's your basic rights that are guaranteed in the Constitution in this country. But now we're going to pass a law to make sure everybody, a federal law, make sure everybody has those civil rights, and they have ability to sue in court or whatever it is they need to do if someone is abusing their civil rights. But guess what? Voting often happens, actions happen at a state level. It's not the federal government that's in charge of voting throughout 50 states and territories. It happens at a local or state level. And when that happens, there was a whole lot of things going on with Jim Crow that happened after Reconstruction, and was in place for almost 90 years until, guess what? The Voting Rights Act of 1965. That's right. I was born in 1960. So when I was born, and I don't think I'm that old, my dad's a lot older than me. He's 85, 86 years old. He's born in 36, 35. But anyway, the point is, we had to pass Voting Rights Act because of the Jim Crow era that happened in this country. People hear that, they often think of the South, but it wasn't just in the South. It was in the North. It was all over the country. Every state was doing whatever they wanted to do as far as voter suppression was concerned. They were doing whatever they wanted to do as far as even doing extra legal things as far as any sort of internal national terrorism acts that were going on, trying to prevent people from voting, right to the point where people were actually losing their lives. And there's a lot of people who got injured, a lot of people who died to make sure you had this right. And the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was signed into law on August the 6th, 1965. LBJ doing it again, along with the support of the rest of the country and the rest of our supporters, that outlawed discriminatory voting practices that were adopted in many southern states, but I said not just in southern states, in northern states as well. And basically, this all happened after the Civil War. It had all happened after, as a result, like I said, with a lot of the Jim Crow laws that was happening, not just in the South, but in other places in the country. They would do voter suppression techniques like literacy tests and as a prerequisite to voting, or they would say, okay, can you recite the Constitution, or how many bubbles are on a soap, how many jelly beans in a jar, anything they wanted to do on top of physical violence to prevent people from voting. In a democracy, voting rights is the very air that gives it life. If you can't vote on a local, state, and national level, then you cannot get your views in a representative democracy. It is extremely important. You can't have a democracy without it. Because if you have no voting rights, you don't have a democracy. You now have an autocracy. You now have a theocracy. You now have a dictatorship. We didn't want that, a monarchy. We kind of kicked the whole monarchy thing out at the beginning of this country, but we've been trying to get better ever since, folks. That is why voting rights is so important. Now, let me tell you, we weren't there. The last and final and third thing that I want to talk to folks about the trilogy of your basic civil rights is the Fair Housing Act of 1968. So now here's your civil rights. Here's your voting rights. Well, you got to have some place to live, and people were discriminating there too. They said, okay, Fair Housing Act, we need that. It expanded on the previous acts that were out there, and it basically prohibited discrimination concerning the sale, the rental, and the financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, sex, and was later amended to include the handicapped or the disabled and family status, whether you were single. Nowadays that would also include whether you're LGBTQ or other things. They cannot discriminate against you based on your family type, or whether you have a disability, or they don't like your religion, your sex, your race. All these things, we had to make laws. You would think people would do things without having to make a law for it, but apparently not. So this is a problem that we're facing now, folks, because in 2013, when it came to voting rights, the Supreme Court had this idea in their head that there's no more discrimination in the country. You don't need that. So they didn't get rid of the act altogether. What they decided to do was to take out the piece of the Voting Rights Act, which was a part of that act, called preclearance. And what the new bill that was passed in Congress 2 years ago basically put it back into place. And that is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And what this bill does is it establishes new criteria determining which states and political subdivisions must obtain preclearance before any changes are made to voting practices. This preclearance provision is the heart of voting rights in this country. It is the reason why people didn't have enough voting machines in certain jurisdictions, or you had to wait 3 hours to vote, or there was no longer any absentee or what you call early voting. You couldn't bring people water or food in line, just all kind of things that different states would just sort of arbitrarily pass, targeting certain groups to make it more difficult for them to vote. Well, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, Advancement Act, puts that preclearance back into place. And John Lewis almost lost his life crossing the Pettus Bridge at that time, cracked his head open, almost killed him. But let me tell you what it does. It also modernizes the voting rights formula for determining discrimination in states and localities. It It also says any changes to voting rules has to take place at least 180 days before an election. And it also gives the government more authority to send federal observers to monitor jurisdictions for potential risk of discrimination at the voting polls. So this has been passed in the House, 2 years ago. It has not passed in the Senate. So we need to get that passed in the Senate. And when we talk about Senator Warnock, why it is so important that he won that race is because in order for this legislation to make it to the president's desk to sign, we need those votes in the Senate. And that is the reason why you saw me bouncing around so happy. Guess what? I am happy, but it ain't done till it's done. It has not actually happened yet, but we have now the potential of doing it, because the last time we tried to get it done in the Senate, I don't like to accent the negative. I'll just tell you it didn't get done. But it's going to get done. Okay, it is going to get done. All right, folks, let me tell you about the next bill that was also passed. The next one is H.R. 1. And I mentioned earlier that was the For the People Act of 2021. And basically, it even expanded upon voting rights in this country. In Virginia, we have some of the most progressive voting rights in the nation. We've got same day voting, we got early voting, we got voting by mail, we got voting we have all type of access to our polls, so that anyone who wants to vote, who is eligible to vote, and they can vote in a lot of different ways. So you don't have to worry about, oh man, I'm gonna have to be in line for 3 hours to vote. Well, guess what? I got to go to work. I can't sit in line for 3 hours. But that's what voting suppression is. By making it harder for you to vote, some people just give up and decide not to vote. I'm telling you, don't do it, folks. The cavalry is on its way. We're going to make sure these things are available for all 50 states. Let me go ahead and finish telling you about this. So what the For the People Act does, it basically expands access to voting, automatic and same-day voter registration nationwide, 2 weeks of early voting or absentee voting. It's banning purging of the voting rolls. And you say to yourself, what is banning of the purging of the voting rolls? What the heck is that? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. If you vote in one election and for whatever reason you didn't vote in the last election, they'll turn around and take your name off the polls. And when you show up to vote the next election, you can't vote. Well, you actually can vote, but what they end up giving you is a provisional vote. And so for some people, they don't even let them vote at all in certain states. So it is really a problem with purging voting rolls. Once you're registered to vote and everything is the same, they should not take your name off the rolls. And a lot of states have been monkeying around with that, with voter suppression, to make it difficult for people to vote. Now, the other thing is it restores, as I said earlier, the protections of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, which was decimated by the Supreme Court in 2013. Also, it provides finance reforms like banning foreign money loopholes, election security, independent commissions to prevent gerrymandering, and it grants, there goes my technology, and it grants to states to help them replace voting machines, and also additional processes for auditing and securing election results. Because we not only have to worry about the right to vote, but we also have to make sure nobody messes with your vote once you vote. And that's what all those the state, what do you call it? The person who's in charge of voting for each state is called the name is escaping me right now. But what they're doing basically is, once the votes have already been tabulated in all the areas and they go to that person who is the head of it in their state, then that person is responsible for following the law. These are supposed to be nonpartisan participants in making sure that those votes are properly counted and calculated. But there was a lot of monkeying around with that, if you know, back in 2020. And that is something a lot of voter election security and voter protection attorneys have been working to make sure that that sort of silliness does not happen. Particularly, a lot of people try to get elected to certain offices. There's, I think it's called the state. I can't remember the name. But the point is that a lot of people who were intending to monkey around with that in the last election in November the 8th were basically lost. They lost in those elections on November the 8th. So you had a lot of folks who came out, and we had some victories there, not just for Democrats. Those are victories for the American people. Because once again, voting rights is not a Democratic or a Republican thing. It is an American thing. Let the person with the best ideas and presents them to the public in the best way, and let the public come and make a decision without anybody messing with your ability to vote or messing with the votes after you voted. That's what this whole voting rights thing is about. So I'm here telling you again for the 76th time. So also, again, folks, I told you that the Senate did pass a bill. It was, or tried to pass a bill. It was the Senate Bill 2747, the Freedom to Vote Act. I'm not going to really go through that right now, only to tell you it didn't pass, and it's going to come back up again in that form or another form. So I don't want to just leave you out there hanging once we talk about this. I'm also telling you there's a call to action. And what is your call to action? There's a fantastic app that's out there. It's called 5 Calls. It allows you to basically download this to your phone. And basically, it doesn't matter whether your phone is a Google phone or an Android is what they call it, or whether or not it is an iPhone. It doesn't matter, because what that app actually does for you is it has all of your information. As soon as you put in your number and you put in some basic information, it lists all the information that you need to have about any of the issues. Then it lists your congressmen, their numbers, and all that sort of stuff. So your call to action is get on the phone, use that app, and basically you can call. It automatically allows you to call and contact your congressperson and whoever it is that you need to, and it tells you what that legislation is, and all you have to do is say, I know about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, I know about the Freedom to Vote Act, and I want you to know, congressperson, I'm watching and I want you to support this so it gets to the president's desk. Click. That's all you got to do. That's the least you can do. Make a phone call, and that app makes it easy as pie. Okay, so here we go. I'm almost 30 minutes in now, so I'm about to go into the part that I really like, the part where I stop talking and I start to tell you a little bit about the guests that we're getting ready to have on here. Folks, really a fantastic couple, actually, and I'm going to bring their name up so I don't mess up any of this. And here it is. I'm bringing them on screen. Yes, I'm talking about Antonia Fasick and Bob, the button guy, Fasick. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about them, folks. I know you can't read that on screen, so I'm going to bring my bigger information over here on the screen. And it's some good information about folks who've been volunteering, Antonia and Bob, for many, many years. First thing I'm going to tell you a little bit about Bob. Bob's a retired federal employee who's hoping to make a difference in this crazy world, as he said, when he discovered that when you're helping people in whatever small way you can, it brings a great sense of fulfillment to your life. So Bob is, I said, Bob, send me a bio, but Bob is also, he's preaching a little bit here. I like a bio that preaches at you too. So Bob's just telling you that he got energized in 2008 with the Barack Obama campaign for president. He volunteered for a while that year. Then he got more and more involved in activism ever since then. And when you get involved in helping others, Bob says that these things lead to one other thing, and one person leads to another person and another thing. And before you know it, you got a lot of stuff, a bunch of stuff going on. So he's telling you, just dip your toe in. Once you dip your toe in, you're going to find out exactly, you're going to get in where you fit in, and you're going to meet a lot of good people and a lot of things that you're interested in. And his beautiful wife, Antonia Fasick, a little bit about her. She's a second-generation American, and until her 10 years, she lived in a certain area of Manhattan. If y'all don't know what that is, that's New York City, NYC, but she was actually in an area called Hell's Kitchen. And if you know New York, you know Hell's Kitchen is, they don't mess around in Hell's Kitchen. So if you came up at Hell's Kitchens, you got a lot of diversity that you met, a lot of diversity as far as people's economic situation, as far as ethnic, where they're from, and socially. It is really a mix, hence the name Hell's Kitchen. But that is what our country is all about. Many different Americans from many different walks of life living in the same area. And she basically gives credit to her grammar school that she attended for instilling in her the importance of service to the community and caring for others. That's a beautiful thing. But since moving to DC, she's done some other things. She taught special needs children who were on the spectrum in a children's hospital in Washington, DC. When she started a family, she took a job as a preschool director at a church on Beacon Hill Road. That's right here in the Northern Virginia, Mount Vernon area, right off of Route 1. And she worked to grow the school, creating a scholarship there program and hiring staff and being more reflective of the community, the diverse community that these students are in. So she's done some, excuse me, I don't have a cough button, so I got to take a little sip here. But they're not done. I'm about to start talking about things I can't pronounce as well, but Bob and Antonia will fix it for me. I'm not done. I'm going to tell you a little more about them. Basically, Bob and Antonia were not really separable, and they volunteered a lot, mostly for social justice causes, sometimes for political candidates who were genuine and compassionate and passionately committed to making a difference. Antonia got involved in volunteer assistance also, her and Bob in Haiti, and made a number of mission trips. And they also led a trip. They helped build a health clinic to do a lot of maintenance, painting, whatever that needed to get done. They did, and other projects in different villages of Hope-Lazarus Project in Croix des Bouquets. That's French. I'm killing it. I know I'm probably not pronouncing it right. In Gantier, Haiti. Well, anyway, while doing that, they met a young man who operated a nonprofit in creation. And he was from Uganda, and he dedicated through his art and life skills to providing a safe environment for child soldiers to reintegrate into their communities. So they're going from, Route 1 to Haiti to helping folks in Uganda, working with child soldiers. Basically, this is pretty interesting. You gotta meet them, while also providing resources to renovate and drill new water wells. That also led them to meeting a young woman who was also doing pretty great things also in Cité Soleil in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, where she learned that another couple was very worthwhile organizations were doing good work in Haiti in healthcare. And the name of the organization is Partners in Health, which is located in central Haiti and providing microloans to market women in Haiti. In a place called Foncoze, if I pronounce it right. But they're not done. They're jumping from Haiti. They also work with tornado reliefs in Joplin, Missouri, taking a small group to help there. They met others who were involved in Haiti, who got a bunch of them together to do a habitat build. Yes, another country, El Salvador this time. And as Yul Brynner would say, as Bob and et cetera, et cetera. So, folks, This is really, really amazing. It is amazing. And I just took 5 minutes. I could have taken more than that. Probably was more than 5 minutes to tell you about Bob and Antonia Fasick, who've been doing some fantastic things. And it is a pleasure and an honor to bring them onto our show. So, folks, without further ado, I want to I think that's French. I want to introduce you to Bob and Antonia Fasick. Are you ready for them? Let's come in. Where you at? There's Bob. There's Antonia. Hey. How are you doing? Oh.
Doing well.
Doing great. I hope you can hear me.
Oh, wow. This is beautiful. Ooh, you guys deserve that and more, because you guys have been doing some stuff. Whoa. a lot of stuff. But first, I'm going to take a mic check. Can I hear you say something, Antonia? Are you there?
Yeah, I just was hoping you could hear me.
Okay, I can hear you, but I'm hearing some feedback. I don't know where that's coming from. You don't have another phone up or anything, do you?
No, can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're a little muffled, but I can hear you. But we'll work with it. I don't know whether we're getting some feedback, but I'll tell you what, when one or the other of you are talking, the other person just needs to mute the mic, and I think that'll resolve the problem. Okay? So first, who am I going to start with first? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Ladies first. We're going to start with Antonia and Bob. I'm messing with you. You can jump in whatever you want to. So you guys just start. Tell me a little bit about how you guys got to do all these fantastic things. Go right ahead. Whoever wants to go.
Okay. I just lost you, so I didn't hear anything you said, but are you asking me to talk? Is that?
I'm asking you to tell me a little bit about all the good stuff you've been
I'm
doing.
Antonia.
How you met Bob, how many kids? You can tell me whatever you want to.
Okay, all right. Okay, so I'm not a Virginian by birth, as you mentioned. I'm a New Yorker, and I grew up in an area that was very diverse. And I moved down here, met Bob. We hit it off, and we found that we had very many things in common. And I think one of them was that we both have a big heart, and we're both caring people. And so I've spent my career as an educator and working with children with special needs until we had the kids. And it's very demanding working with children with special needs. And so I wanted something different. And I took my skills to Bethany Lutheran on Beacon Hill Road, and where it's an area, if you're not familiar, that's very eclectic. You can have people on one side of the street that are very wealthy, and perhaps they're congressmen or doctors and lawyers and Indian chiefs, and then you can have people who survive paycheck to paycheck. And so it was my desire, and with the support of the church, that the program, preschool that I was directing, become more involved in the community. And involved at the community, more involved in our preschool program. And so we started up a scholarship program to help the folks that maybe couldn't afford the whole thing. And so that was a very pleasurable thing to see that grow. And because you had families coming in that were more diverse, I was able to hire more diverse staff from the families and help that part of our school grow. And in the meantime, Bob and I would do things with our children at school, or we would do things at Bethany. And but I feel that really until Bob retired, and he retired a long time before I did, we didn't get as much involved in all the things that we do now. And it was, he came because the church was doing a mission trip there. And as Bob, as you read and shared with the audience, is that you meet people like who's out there and feel that I forbid it, however little it is, and how do you not help if you help? And there's a million different ways that you can help, even if it's gathering food for the and bringing it to someone else, or if it's collecting food for the needy. And we did some of that stuff in the school. I had we had a food drive there every year around Valentine's Day, and we brought that to down to one of the other churches that serve the community, which is Rising Hope, which eventually now Bob and I are kind of involved with, as we are both retired. But
Let me ask you a question, Antonia.
I feel it's
Mhm.
sure.
I was going to ask you, how did you and Bob meet? Because you mentioned you guys are from two separate areas. I think Bob, he didn't tell me where he was from, but you told me where you were from. You guys met in D.C.? How did you meet?
I can answer that.
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bob. You answer it.
Okay. So I was working downtown federal agency, and I needed a place to stay that was closer to work. Friend recommended the Hamlets on 395 and West Alexandria. And I went fishing with my friends. I brought some fish home. I was cooking on my hibachi on my barbecue on the balcony, and she popped her head around and very romantically, very sensually said, "What the hell are you cooking?" And that was how we met. We lived in apartments next door to each other. So that was that.
Locally here in Alexandria?
Yeah, it's right off of Beauregard and Seminary Road. Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how we did it. But and we just get involved in these things.
And I moved down here from New York with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I moved down here with a bunch of my friends from college. So I was living with my two girlfriends, and everybody kind of hung out at our apartment. But so I'd actually seen Bob prior, and I thought he was kind of cute, and I thought that I would do that kind of an introductory, kind of a New York sort of way.
So you, Bob, where are you actually from? Where are you from?
Well, I was born in D.C. in Sibley in Southeast. Sibley's not in Southeast anymore, but old Sibley Hospital. I was raised when I was 4. We moved out of the district and into Montgomery County, and I lived there through high school. Went to the University of Maryland, and then went into service. Got out of the service. And came back, got a job, and I moved to Virginia. And of course, all my friends were from Maryland. Okay. They were aghast that I would move to the deep South, Virginia. So that was it was convenient for work. So that was that. But we kicked around and we realized that we liked each other a lot and hung out enough to fall in love and get married. And then, Tony said, we did things, volunteer. If people want our assistance, all they have to do is ask. If it's possible, we do it. You give, and it doesn't have to be a lot. And, we volunteered a little bit in politics, but not a whole lot. Early on, but then we were doing this thing that used to be called Christmas in April, which is where you go out and you help people and fix their houses when they're not able to do those kinds of things. And we did that. There was a contact at the church, and we were out there and we were digging in a garden, and somebody said, "Hey, anybody want to go to Haiti?" Because they had the big earthquake. And we just looked at each other and said, "Yeah, we'll do that." And that kind of kicked off a whole different chapter in our lives. We went to Haiti. I went to Haiti, 6, 7 times doing various different things. Went down there, helped to build a clinic, as you said before, and did a lot of things. And so, people say, well, why Haiti? You know, we've got a lot of need here. And I would hearken back to what Elijah Cummings said, and that was, I do what moves my soul.
There you go.
And you know, you don't know where your heart's going to go, but you'd be wise to follow it. So that's kind of what we do. And you know, my daughter, you know, not that long ago was just saying, well, you know, if you can give, why don't you? And that's what she was raised. That's what she was raised to do. And our son's the same way. So we do these things. And I would just say, you know, that it's not a matter of doing a lot. It's easy to be overwhelmed by the magnitude. I mean, look at Haiti. The magnitude of the problems they've had down there for over 200 and just about 218 years now, if I've got my math right, since their liberation. And they've only had like three free elections in all that time. So you can't do everything, but you put blinders on and you do a little bit. And if everybody does a little bit, then together we can all do a lot.
Well, you know, Haiti has had a very specious history with a lot of outside interference. And as you know, Bob, I'm of Haitian descent.
Yeah, and the U.S. is
here, but what one people don't know is that Haiti was the colony's largest trading partner for years. So folks who need to go get educated on Haiti need to go get that education. And if we try to talk about Haiti, other than your fantastic volunteer work, we can easily take up this entire show and two more like it and not cover it all.
I have a bibliography if anybody wants it. It's pretty much 2 pages of things they can read that'll help them out. But there's a lot of good stuff, and I would say, they've had a lot of interference, and we occupied Haiti for about 20 years in the early 20th century. The U.S. did. So that's it. And we shipped off Aristide to Congo, but hey, that's another story.
That's a lot of stories.
Anyway,
Haiti, the other significant story is Haiti was the first free African republic in the Western Hemisphere. So a lot of what Haiti did to support the United States in the years before that. So it's a very interesting story. We got to have you come back on and we'll just talk Haiti.
Oh yeah, I could definitely, you know.
A question I want to ask you: what was the first thing you guys volunteered on together?
I don't know, Tonya. I don't know. I know that certainly Haiti was one thing, but then we did things with our friend Ellen. I don't know when we started doing that, and
well,
But maybe Tony remembers. What's the first thing together you did?
A friend of ours had a child who died and he died around Christmas time. And they sat in the kitchen and said, there's got to be something good that comes out of this. And they started, and the boy's name was Cole. So they started an organization called Cole's Closet. And they collect gifts, a bunch of stuff. And they started out bringing it to the hospitals. And there was a closet in Fairfax Hospital. So they called it Cole's Closet. And for people, they would have toys available to families whose children had uncertain futures. So that started back, maybe 10 years ago, or probably more than 10 years ago.
Wait a minute. You guys started volunteering. Didn't you start volunteering a lot further back than 10 years ago? How long have you guys been married?
How long we've been married?
Yes, it'll be, let's see, 22, 81. It'll be 41 years
It feels like 40
in January.
Yeah.
41 years.
Yeah.
Well, we did. I mean, we did the odd thing. I mean, it was always if somebody needed something. I was when I was still working, I was helping a friend out because he got sick and had to retire, and I used to go to his house in Laurel and pick him up, and we would go to Silver Spring to meet our coworkers. And I did that, probably 15, 20 years ago. I had a coworker that got ill, and I used to go out to her house and do things around her house while she was sick, and she passed away. But it's just something that you don't remember those things because it's part of you. It's just something you do. It's not, these aren't big demarcations on a calendar. You don't have awards. You don't have stuff. You just have the satisfaction that you did what you could to try to make life a little bit better for somebody.
So you mentioned your one daughter. Do you have any more children, or just the one daughter, or what?
We have a son. We had a son. Yes,
Okay.
Bullet baby. He was born in the parking lot, and he was born in the parking lot. I was born in an elevator, so it runs in the family. But he is. What is he now? 38 years
38.
old. He's married, and
Okay.
he lives in. Where does he live, Bob?
Reston.
Reston. Yeah,
He's in Reston. Yes, and he got a degree in fine arts at George Mason, and he works for an internet company that
Okay.
helps small businesses. By the way,
Okay. Great.
work with client contact communication, helps them set up databases. And, it can be anything from just using software to a full-blown support role. So he
Now,
does that.
You got any grandchildren?
No.
No.
Okay, you had to think about that.
But they have two cats.
We do have, we have biologically, we've got a daughter and a son. We have probably an additional 3 girls we call women. We call daughter number 2, 3, and 4. And we have another couple. We've got son number 3, son number 3, son number 4. Well, these are guys that after college, they might have needed a place to stay. One guy stayed with us for about a little bit over 2 years. Another guy with a few months, and they come over for Thanksgiving if they can. We keep that relationship. So those are things that we do. We're growing a family, and this is not something that will be happening to a lot of other people that are listening here, but they all have a house key. We give out house keys, and which is funny because the door is usually open. But, that's the way it is.
Well, you know what? You don't have to be a blood relative to be family. I'm sorry. What'd you say, Tony? Go ahead. Say it again, Tony.
I forgot. Senior moment. I don't know.
No, but you're right. You're right, Mark, and that's something that we've had recently. We've been touched by some friends that I would say they're relatively recent friends, being within the last 5 years or so. But they will confide in us. They'll come. They'll give us a hug, and they'll just, it's like I can share this with you because you're family, and they don't do that for just anybody. And I mean, 2 of our really good friends, by the way, I got to put this plug in. They're down in the Shenandoah Valley. They operate LifeWorks Project, which is a nonprofit, and they collect clothing, food, means of helping folks. They try to use some donations for helping people out with utility bills and stuff like that. It's a really worthwhile thing, the LifeWorks project. But we met them on a march downtown.
Well, you know what? This is a good time for me to stick in just to kind of let folks know all the fantastic groups that you work with and things that you list. I actually made a little list here of all the folks here, and LifeWorks is right on top. You can see that. Tell them about these different projects.
Okay. The LifeWorks project, like I said, they're in Waynesboro and Augusta County. They do a lot of great stuff. They're doing the work. We help with resources. We're going to go down there this weekend and help stuff bags for the unhoused population in what they call the encampment in Waynesboro to help them with necessities. Free Kind, Virginia, they work on trafficking, human trafficking, primarily teen human trafficking. They're out of Virginia Beach now. They used to be the Richmond Justice Initiative. Village of Hope, Haiti. They operate Village of Hope or Village of Hope Lazarus Project. They're in Haiti. They have offices in West Palm Beach, but they also operate in Haiti, and they do a lot of good stuff. They operate a school, 650 people. They have a clinic down there that serves primarily, in the order of prominence, the kids in the school, the families of the kids, and the local area. They fund COSI. They are an organization that provides micro loans for market women to help them sustain a family. And almost all of their clients, their number one objective is to get enough money to send their kids to school. And a lot of people don't realize it, that public school in most of the world costs money. So if you don't have the nickels and dimes necessary to pay, you don't go to school. Partners in Health is worldwide, but they started in Haiti. One of their founders just recently died. His name was Paul Farmer, and that is just a phenomenal organization. If you can just look up Paul Farmer or go out and read the book, Mountains Beyond Mountains. It's about Paul Farmer. Growing Roots, they do murals in the slums of Port-au-Prince, but they get the community to do it, from the elders to the young kids, and everybody participates in making these murals in the community so they have a sense of place, a sense of pride. Freedom in Creation is in Uganda. They started with the idea that there were child soldiers, and I would say they were reintroduced to their culture, not to their communities, because many of the kids were stolen from their communities. They were forced into killing their parents and joining the Lord's Republican Army and going and raiding and pillaging other places. And then they manage to escape, and they go back and they're taken back in, and through art, they help them deal with that trauma. And they also, the other side of that is that they renovate water wells and they dig wells, because water is the main thing. Even in the jungle, good water, it's hard. Doctors Without Borders needs no further explanation. And AACP Legal Defense Club, they're doing tremendous work on the civil rights fronts. They always have. They will continue to do that. Thurgood Marshall was like the father of all of that kind of activity. So these are just some of the things. And, it's just, again, a lot of them are worldwide, but you can find stuff local, do stuff local.
You forgot, you passed by the ACLU, which you had them listed as well. So you working with all these other organizations. He's not done, folks, and Tony's not done. I got one more for you. Tony, there's one more out there for you to do.
Yeah.
You guys work with these other organizations.
Tony, I want to point out this one, Ready and Relevant in Minneapolis. They're all about black young girls and black women. And the woman that Evita Ellis, if you're on Facebook, just put her name in there, search for Evita Ellis. She provides such a tremendous wealth of knowledge, historic moments, Black history. If you want to learn something about Black history, you can from Evita. And she's always out there. And she is there for the people that are unhoused and in need of a hand. And she gives them that hand. Feeding America is just a wonderful program. They have a very low administrative cost, and they're just providing food where it's needed. And Tony can speak to Rising Hope because she's the one that's the driving force about our participation there.
Well, Rising Hope is local in Alexandria off of Route 1. They are a small church, really, but they serve the community. There's many unhoused in that area. There are a lot of immigrants, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of African immigrants there as well. And so I have a place in my heart for people who are new to the country. But they serve breakfasts and lunches there. I think every day but Monday, and they have now they also have a food pantry, but they call it the market now, and people can sign up. You're assigned a time or a day and time that you can go in there into their little market area. In addition, they have non-perishable foods. They have partnered with the Capital Area Food Bank. One of the projects there that are vegetables and fruit. So you can, it's not usual there and see humongous containers of green peppers or onions or carrots that look funky. And they're odd shaped, and it's a new director of the food there, and she's been trying to get volunteers from the community. So it's been growing. If you're looking to do something that's quite rewarding, and you're living in Alexandria, Springfield, Mount Vernon area. You have to check it out. And during the COVID period, they had takeout food from the chef. What's his Andre? The World Food thing.
Andres.
Okay, I forget the name of him, but
I know you're talking about.
Every Thursday they were out there.
World Kitchen. Yeah.
World Kitchen.
Yeah.
I tell you, you're getting a little frozen for some reason, Tony. But keep going.
Yeah.
Your
okay.
volume
I'm just going to comment that it's a well organized, and definitely they have a lot of heart there to try, and they're really trying to serve the community, and the community needs a lot of help. So.
Well, and then you guys have really all the rest of these places. Well, you've got So Others Might Eat, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Southern Environmental Law Center, Special Olympics, Natural Resource Defense, and Moms Demand Action for Every Town for Gun Safety, which is a whole lot of organizations. I want to make sure everybody got mentioned because you took the time to put that list together.
Yeah, they all of those things. We decided now that we're both retired. When what we got involved with the Freedom in Creation in Uganda because my daughter had gotten involved with them and said, "Hey, you should come to this fundraiser." We came. We met Andrew, who is just a phenomenal guy. I mean, at the time he was 39 and I was 60 or something, and I told him, quite frankly, when I grew up, I wanted to be like him. He's pretty amazing. But anyway, we got involved in that, and when we both were retired, we decided that, and we were unfortunate that our parents passed away, but they were very generous, and my sister, and they were able to give us some pocket change. And it happened that we got in touch with touch with Freedom in Creation about the same time my mom passed away, and they needed money to drill a well, so I gave them money to drill a well. Which is cheaper over there than it is here, but that became a habit, and so when we go to the financial advisor, before we decided that we were going to use this money to do whatever, this was on the top of the list, and all of those organizations were involved primarily to the extent that we donate to every one of them every month.
Fantastic. That is fantastic.
It's not just.
But it's not a whole lot that we're denoting.
But it's a little, but it's to, I don't know, 15, 20 different organizations. And it's what we can do. And if everybody did that, it sounds trite. I've told you this before, Mark, because it's on the back of my business card. But I try to look at the mirror every morning or every evening, and I try to say, in the evening, what have you done today to make the world a better place? And it doesn't have to be a lot. If you just get somebody to
He's not
smile.
kidding, folks. It's on the back of his business card.
if you just make somebody smile, you've done your job. And it starts from there, because you need to get in your head that it doesn't have to be a whole lot. But what happens is, because it's not a whole lot, it's not a burden, and you start doing more and more and more, and before you know it, you're busier in retirement than you were when you worked. But
I'll throw this back up here, Bob. It says, if we all do a little together, we can do a lot. That is a Bob Fasick quote.
That's taken from somewhere, I'm sure. But I have no original thoughts. But
the best thoughts are the ones that people have already proven that they work. So you need to just reuse that wheel.
Well, and the other thing I would like to, since this is a small business of Virginia forum, one thing I would like to say is, it confounds me when business leaders decide that they can't do business if they pay all these, if they do these things that the quote progressives want them to do for their workers. You can get out there and you can look at places like Aldi's.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good example, because they've got benefits. They pay their people reasonably well compared to their competition. And I can go in as a consumer and get things at half the price I get at Giant or Safeway. So you can do it. And the challenge for business is to do good while doing well.
Exactly.
You can do well and still do good. And so, and gee whiz, people want to work for you if you pay attention to the community. I go to businesses that charge me a little bit more, not a lot, but a little bit more, because I believe in their business, not because I'm getting a deal there. It's not always about the deal. Okay? It's just not.
It's about giving back to the community that you're actually making money in. Everybody doesn't need to be a multi-billionaire. I don't think that makes me a socialist, but I think if you have a lot of people in the country, or if you have things in the country that have not gotten done, like universal health care, affordable education, all the sorts of things in a country that helps the country to grow and gives back to the country, are the things that I think we're trying to get right. I mean, we're going down that road. Got a lot of people doing that, but we need more people. I mean, every major.
Well, I'll tell you what. Universal for small businesses, universal health care. You take that monkey off the small businessman's back.
They're going to shoot up.
Absolutely. And people, seriously, to me, it's not just economic. It's not just this great philosophical. I think it's practical. I think businesses, when they're supported by the community, can thrive much more than they can if they nickel and dime the people to death.
Well, you said the same thing now with college education, college loans. We used to invest heavily in local, from a state level and a federal level, to make sure college is affordable. Why in the world would we want to stop people from getting, when I say college, I mean education beyond high school, whether it's a vocational skill certification program or a four-year school, whatever. But we're investing in the future because one day we're going to get old. People would argue I'm old already, and I need someone to help me out.
But these are, I mean, anybody that has a business or took Business 101 knows that there is a difference between an expense and an investment.
Yes.
And these are not costs, they are investments.
They're investment in the future. Any business needs that. You know what, guys, we're getting close to the time where I normally sign off. I won't keep people for too long, but I asked this question of all my guests before they leave. And I'm going to go to you first, Tony, because you are the lady. And I asked, I said, if you were queen for a day and you had a magic scepter, and you could get anything done that you wanted to get done, what would be the first thing you would do? Did you hear me?
Could you repeat that? Because I heard some of it. I didn't hear the beginning.
If you were queen for a day and you had a magic scepter and all you had to do was wave that wand and it would be done, what would be the first thing you would do? By the way, Bob's getting Billy to cheat a little bit because I'm asking him second. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's okay. The first thing that pops in my mind is world peace. I guess what would I do? I don't know. We were just talking about healthcare. If you're healthy, I would say we could work together to get universal health care without because if you have good health, you're going to have a good life. But that, I guess, and then of course everybody would have the money that they need to live and survive and thrive in their community. Gosh, I don't know if I were queen. That's, I guess, what I would go for is just good health, good money. I would want to have voting rights for everybody, and I'd go for the whole Democratic ticket there, but that's what I would do.
I think those are very good things. I mean, you named three of them.
Everybody
you put it all out there. Yeah, fantastic.
You can't hear me.
Okay, Bob, you get your shot.
There.
I think. Tony,
it's buffering.
Your internet
and better internet connections.
Yeah, you might want to hit your mute button. Well, we're going to ask Bob the same question. Okay, Bob. What would you do?
Because Tony had a hard time coming up with one thing, I would have a hard time coming up with one thing, because there are so many things that are so closely interrelated. I would say that, the heart of our democracy is voting rights, and voting rights is critical. It's absolutely critical in order to get anything else done. But if I were to wave my wand, I would make sure that poverty were eliminated and everybody had a home, and they had food security, and health benefits. And we're healthy and provided with that. But it's not one thing, but poverty begets poverty. And we have so many things, systemic things, that keep people below the line, so to speak. And that's just that it's just really, really hard because healthcare and a living wage is, I mean, it's critical, but people need to have opportunities to thrive, and we don't have enough of those, and we don't have enough support for those that don't work in a conventional way and don't operate in the same way everybody else does. So they are more challenged in certain aspects. You mentioned vocational school, trade schools. I'm all for college education, but I'm all for advanced education in whatever you choose as a life's endeavor, whatever that might be. Trade schools are a good way to go, I think. But there is no one thing. But one thing, I'd like everybody to recognize that being a progressive, the word progressive,
yes,
has nothing to do with the rate of change. It doesn't have to be a radical rate of change, but it does have to do with the direction you're going.
absolutely.
It's not a matter of speed, it's a matter of direction.
And on that last statement, because you're Bob the button guy, I want you to tell everybody how you come up with all these slogans for so many different buttons. And you're going to explain this to people, Bob, because Bob's got all kind of buttons that he's created. He manages to get these statements. Let me get the right hand up here on all these different buttons. There's 1, 2, 3. I've got another one here. Literally dozens of buttons with slogans that he's created. Bob, how did you become the button guy?
Most of them are taken from something that someone said or saw. The one that you had in your right hand, that was, you just had it there. That no, not the legacy, but the one. No, the other one that you just had it. That one.
That one. I'm making sure people can see it.
Problems get solved when you're involved. Do you know Queenie from Gun Springs?
I know Queenie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was wearing a T-shirt that had something like that on it a couple years ago, and I said, I'm making that into a button. But that's what it is. Some of these come from posters I see when we go to marches. Some of them, that's it. That was just some things that people came up with. That was a great one for any group that has anybody has a social justice objective. That one fits all of them.
My personal favorite.
Well, I've got another one. I don't know if you have the other one like that, but Virginia is for voters every year.
No, but I got a whole bunch of these buttons.
So yeah, but
I make sure I get rid of all of them. Okay.
Well, some people just say, "Hey," and they spit out a phrase and they say, "Can you make that a button?" And it's just a matter of whether I can fit it on a 2 1/4 inch button. But now I've got a 3-inch button maker, so I can fit more words. But
I'm going to make one ask of you, Bob. I'd like for you to make a Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus one and try to get on their HR 4 and something to do with voting rights. I know you can figure it out because you're a great button creator and maker. But the hard part is saying the right thing and have it fit on that little 3-inch space.
Well, and honestly, yeah, that's a trick, no question about it. But I would say, number one, before I forget, put it in an email to me so that I won't forget it, what you'd like me to do. And the other thing is that a couple of my buttons are the most effective buttons. I look at a button as something that perhaps can start a conversation. Flip a switch, make somebody think about something, but it's really good if somebody thinks they understand it, takes a moment, and then says, "What exactly do you mean?" Okay, now we got a conversation.
Now you got a
Once you have a conversation, you can make inroads and you can spread the word the way it should be spread. So that's it. And one of the best ones there is that I have is just is not justice. Because people think they know what it is, but then they say, well, gee, I don't know. And that's one that I say, okay, have you ever heard anybody say, well, I'd love to do it, but we can't because it's just the way it is? And that's what that speaks to. So that's one that it gets questions, but it gets conversation. And that's, yes, that's
show it to folks. There it is.
hard. Yes,
Justice
yes.
is not justice. And Bob
That's
even
it.
got a Sankofa, a Dinkra symbol. Know your past, envision the future. This guy's kind of got it all. He's got a saying on the back. Folks, it has been a fantastic time because we can go on and on and on. You do such a great job. I just want to let folks know, listen, these are two of the most fantastic volunteers that I know, Antonia Fasick and Bob, the button guy Fasick. They're the button. There's the power couple right here. I can't say too much more about these guys.
Mark, I would like to say that.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you for all three of the people that were listening. I'm comfortable with that number because it's three of us.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's been real.
We got to have you back again. I want to thank you, Tony and Bob, being on the Virginia Democratic Small Business Caucus Show live. We're going to have you back again.
My royal way.
Send me the email, Mark.
I will send the email, and please keep doing what you're doing. You're making the world a better place. Take care. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go off air. Hold on a minute. Looks like I get the technology right, but we always try to listen to a little bit of Bob before we go. He's got the right idea. Everybody needs to love everybody.